The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech of the heart.
Hello and welcome to It's Your Voice, the show that hosts enriching conversations in diversity. My name is Bahia Yaksan. I am a core alignment coach, which means I help people align their life decisions and gain clarity around their actions, aligning with their values. And I'm also an emotional wisdom training specialist and for many years, a diversity, equity, and inclusion educator. And I have a website if you're interested in seeing some programs that I design. I teach classes online. I coach people over the phone. I do Zoom classes, and we're just being able to start doing some things in person. If you're interested in learning how to step out of bias patterns to develop new ones that are more inclusive and create more belonging, you can check out my website, which right now is called knowwhatyouvantcoaching.wordpress.com. And I also have Instagram. It's at It's Your Voice Show. At It's Your Voice Show. So one thing I'm super love that I feel like is very important before I introduce my wonderful guest tonight is history, U.S. history. And I firmly believe that had our educational systems been more, let's say, able to tell the truth of all of our history, we would not be so divided culturally. So I always love learning more about U.S. history. I feel like it definitely helps lead to increasing understanding, brings us back to our human nature of being just loving and curious about people. And I'm always grateful for historians who educate me more and more about more and more pieces of U.S. history, which I think has a big impact on the whole world, not just our country. And the better we know our history, I think the better citizens we all are. So on that note, let me introduce Trooper William Terrell, who has been a member of Northern California Buffalo Soldiers chapter, and he is the president. He's been involved for over 25 years, and I was not even aware, because of my own ignorance of our history, that there were such chapters alive and thriving and helping build community and educate us. I ran into Trooper Terrell at a Juneteenth event, and he and Trooper Ivy were very kind and connected with me and agreed to be on our show tonight. So I would like to read your introduction, Trooper Terrell, and you can, our engineer can bring him on board as I'm reading the introduction. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And I'll just quickly share this information so we can hear your voice instead of mine. So Trooper William Terrell is the president of the Northern California chapter of Buffalo Soldiers. And the unit provides education and training to adults and youth about Black military units created by Congress in 1866. This is accomplished through all kinds of events, including parades and encampments and what is that called when you do field demonstrations?
Reenactments.
Reenactments. And you've been involved for a long time, and I just can't wait to hear more. And I know you brought some slides we'll show in a few minutes, but I'm so curious, how did you learn about Buffalo Soldiers here, and what drew you to it?
Well, actually, I'm a descendant of a Buffalo soldier. My father was a Buffalo soldier. He was in the 9th Cavalry between 1940 and 1942, stationed in Fort Riley, Kansas. And every year they have an anniversary reunion. And I went to the anniversary reunion with my father in Portland, Oregon in 1999. That was my first reunion. And just being there and listening to the stories and seeing the old troopers, of course, that was 23 years ago. So at that time, there were quite a few of the original Buffalo soldiers still living. And they danced and told stories and talked about their experiences coming up with the all-Black military back during that time period. So as a result, I was extremely interested in it and started going to every reunion. I've been to every reunion since except for 2, and just gaining more knowledge, more information in regards to the important history and rich history of the Buffalo soldiers.
And I know you suggested that that really the topic and title of the show is, what do you know about the contribution of Buffalo soldiers in U.S. history?
Exactly. And I said, what do you know about the Buffalo soldiers? And Congress actually passed legislation in 1866 creating 6 regiments of all Black soldiers, the 9th and 10th Cavalry, and the 38th, 39th, 40th, and 41st Infantry Regiments. In 1869, the infantry regiments were reorganized and to 2 infantry regiments, the 9th and the 10th. So now what we hear about as far as history goes are the 4 regiments, the 9th and 10th Cavalry, 24th, 25th Infantry Regiments. And, that is so important. Many people have seen the movie Glory, and they think those were the Buffalo soldiers, but actually they were not. That was during the Civil War, and they were state militias. They were not in the U.S. military. It wasn't until Congress created this legislation in 1866 that allowed Blacks to join the U.S. military.
Wow. And can you define what state militias are?
State militias were just like each state during that time had a militia group or a group to protect their state boundaries and whatnot. They still had a U.S. military, but certain states, especially during the Civil War, they fought for their state. So Blacks were able to fight as part of the state militia, but they could not join the U.S. military at that time.
Incredible.
And they joined the U.S. military when they were allowed to, because they could make more money in those times in the U.S. military than they could during jobs outside of the U.S. military. Also, they felt they had more dignity being a soldier than they would being an ex-slave, if you will. Also, many people don't know how they got the name the Buffalo Soldiers. And the Native Americans actually gave them their name as the Buffalo Soldiers were patrolling across the plains. And the main reason they gave them the name was, of course, their complexion, their curly hair, black kinky hair, which reminded them of the buffalo coat. And also, they fought so fiercely as the buffalo did. So it was in terms of respect that they gave them the name Buffalo Soldiers. Also, during the Indian Wars, a lot of people don't know in history that Buffalo soldiers were awarded 18 Medal of Honors during the Indian Wars between 1874 and 1900. They also received 28 certificates of merit. So they had a proud, rich history. They fought to protect the settlers the wagon trains that were coming through, they were guides of the wagon trains. So it's a very rich history that the Buffalo Soldiers were involved in.
I think, oh, I see the comment. Thanks for the comment. True. This is outstanding recounting of history that is most often not told. I appreciate the comment.
Exactly. Also, another part of it was, in spite of the continued racial discrimination, substandard equipment, supplies that they received, they had the lowest rate of desertion than any units in the U.S. military.
Wow.
They also became some of the first U.S. park rangers in Yosemite, Sequoia, and Kings Canyon National Park, protecting the environment and the poachers, protecting the environment from the poachers during those time periods. So it's a very, very rich history that we're very proud of, and that's why I became a member, and that's why I do the things that we do to educate the public on the rich history of the Buffalo Soldiers. Now we can show a few slides, if you will, or if you have more questions.
Good time to start the slides.
And that's a picture of a Buffalo Soldier with the typical uniform. And the horse was a key part of the cavalryman. That was one of his most important assets. Next slide. This is a parade that we were in the Seattle-Tacoma area about 4 years ago. Before the pandemic, we went up and stayed a weekend with some of the Buffalo Soldiers from the Tacoma, Seattle area. And this was one of the events that they had, and we're actually going to the parade route.
I bet it attracts a lot of attention.
Oh yes, definitely.
Like, wow, look who's out
Especially
there.
the kids and the horses.
Yeah, the horses too.
But again, like my father used to tell me, when you came back from patrol, you took care of your horse, you fed your horse, you rubbed him down and got him ready before you did anything for yourself. Because again, that was your most important asset, was your horse.
It makes absolute sense. And I'm sorry for the radio listeners that you can't see these slides.
Next slide. Again, that's the parade there in Seattle-Tacoma area. This is an event we did for the 100 Black men in Sacramento. We go to different schools and community events, and this is one of the hosts that's taking pictures with a couple of our troopers. This is one of our encampments up at, I believe it was up in El Dorado Hills, with an event that they have each year. And you see the youngest trooper in the front. Mm-hmm. That is my grandson. And at the time, I believe he was around 8 or 9 years old. And we're, again, trying to recruit younger troopers, because as we get older, we need someone there to continue the legacy and to keep the story going. So he was involved, he learned a lot, and he was able to talk very intelligently about what he had learned about Buffalo Soldiers. Wow. During our events. Of course, now he's 6'2" and about 200 pounds playing football. So
does he still come to events?
He does still enjoy coming to events when he can find time from his football and cooking. He loves to cook.
It sounds like he has a full life.
But also the national organization, we have a Buffalo Soldier Corps, which is Junior Buffalo Soldiers group. And he accompanied me and my wife, and also he has a twin sister, and she was also involved. And during the horse training, she rode a horse, learned how to ride a horse, take care of a horse. But they went with us to Houston a few years to the Junior Buffalo Soldier Summit. So that's something we try to do to get the youth involved. They had one this year in Kentucky at Mammoth Caves in Kentucky. We didn't get to go. They changed the date. They moved it up to June, so we weren't able to go. But things like that get the young people involved and the kids involved in the program.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, next year the summit will be in Houston. The reunion will be in Houston. The youth summit will coincide with the reunion. So a lot of events are planned for the youth there. You know, they have that is our national headquarters in Houston, and they have a national Buffalo Soldiers Museum there in Houston. So we'll go back and have a good time there. They also have the NASA Space Center that, you know, we like to go to when we're back there. So.
Wow. Is there a chapter in every state?
No, not in every state, but there are about, I think about 40 chapters throughout the United States, somewhere in that neighborhood. And some states have more than one. As a matter of fact, in California, there's about 4 chapters, I believe, in California. 3 chapters that I know. No, more than that. 4. There's our Northern California. There's a couple of them in Los Angeles, and there's one in San Diego.
Wow. Do you know how many members there are in California, or approximately?
Not offhand. Probably close to 200 to 300 between the chapters. We also have members at large that are in a particular region, but they may not be close enough to a local chapter. So they're members at large. So we make sure they get the information that comes down, the newsletter that comes down from the national organization.
Gosh, that's exciting. And before I ask more, are there more slides? I have not been.
Yeah, should be more slides.
There.
Yeah, those.
Wow, that's a great photograph.
That's a nice photograph. And this gentleman here in front, this trooper, he's a horse whisperer. He trains horses and he can teach horses amazing tricks.
Nice.
He's from the Seattle Tacoma organization.
Well, I have a sister who I think is a horse whisperer. So I have appreciation for what that means.
And this is a picture of a group up in, this is an old photo up in Buffalo Soldiers in Alaska. This is our unit. We took a period picture. This actually is down in old Sacramento at the old Railroad Museum.
Oh yeah. That looks authentic.
Yeah.
That's definitely a period photo.
That's one of the things we pride ourselves on, is having the uniform that they wore back in 1874.
Wow.
And try to be as authentic as possible.
And look at that saddle and saddle pad and everything.
Now, this interesting gentleman, this is Lieutenant Henry O. Flipper. And Lieutenant Flipper was the first Black graduate from West Point. 4 years he spent at West Point with total silence from the other cadets. He went through 4 years being totally ostracized, but he endured.
Wow.
He's the first Black graduate from the military academy at West Point. Very rich history, very interesting, very smart individual, and was born a slave.
Wow. I can imagine that determination and the strong just
strong will, strong, foundation from his parents.
Yeah. Do we know about what year that was?
He graduated in 1877.
1877.
1877.
Fantastic.
Entered in 1873.
Okay.
And actually, I don't know if you know the story about West Point, but there was another cadet, Whitaker, who would have been the first graduate. But before graduation, 3 or 4 other cadets came to his room, beat him, tied him up, and he wasn't able to make it to the ceremony. And they gave him a discharge, put him out. They said he did it to himself. So he would have been the first graduate, but Henry O. Flipper, he endured and survived and became the first Black graduate of West Point.
The odds against which people had to face are still way, way too unknown. Thank you so much for sharing this information. It's always very sad.
That is the Oakland. That is in Oakland, and the trooper in the middle. That is our chaplain and secretary treasurer of our chapter. That is Trooper Bernard Ivy.
Ah, okay.
So get a little picture of him. And the other 2 troopers, they are from the Seattle-Tacoma area. But they come down to Oakland each year prior to the pandemic and attend the Oakland Black Cowboys Association event. And so we ride with them here and we go up and fellowship with them when we can.
Wow, what an incredible fellowship.
Yes.
What a wonderful way. Wow.
This took place, and that is another one of our troopers. As a matter of fact, he's a charter member of our chapter, Trooper Bill Pettis. And that is, we call him Herbie. That is the head of a buffalo that we have mounted. And this was at the Pinnacles National Park at their dedication, probably about 6 or 8 years ago. And when we can, we take Herbie with us and we set him up where, kids can come by and look at him and take pictures.
Wow, that's such a rare
That
sight.
is an authentic buffalo head. And we also have the robe that we use on the table display.
So you can see the fierceness.
Yes.
The strength. Okay, now we got a guitar in this one.
Yes. This is another one of our troopers, Trooper Oscar Russell, and he likes to do a little serenading, play a few tunes for the kids. I think this event, I'm not sure, this may be up at Sequoia National Park.
Nice. And everywhere you go, you have to take trailers filled with horses.
Well, no, we don't always take horses.
Okay.
Sometimes it's
Okay.
not cost effective to take the horses. We were planning to do an event in Fresno this year, taking horses, but they felt that they had asked us and then they rescinded because Fresno, it gets pretty hot in the summer. So thinking about the heat on the horses. And we even had an event in Sacramento a few years ago that was, it wasn't canceled. We used to have Gold Rush days in Sacramento every Memorial Day weekend or Labor Day weekend. And because of the heat, I think it was predicted to be between 104 and 107 that weekend. So they decided no horses. We didn't want to, have a problem with PETA or any other groups in terms of cruelty to animals. But we also care about the horses too and don't want to expose them to that kind of heat.
I'm sure you don't.
Yeah.
Well, there's another one.
This is the parade in Vallejo. This was their annual Christmas parade and tree lighting ceremony. It happens in, I believe it was December. early December, first weekend in December.
Hmm.
And you see the 3 junior Buffalo Soldiers in the front.
Yeah.
Those are my grandkids. And the one on the far right is the twin to the one in the middle.
Okay.
The young man you saw in the picture earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And the one on the far left is their older sister.
Okay.
All of 14 months older than them.
Wow. The busy parents.
Yes, but they like to do events like that and go with us.
That's wonderful. That is so wonderful to have your family so involved.
Yes, they always talk to my grandson about, you're the 3rd generation Buffalo Soldier.
Wow, that's incredible. It's totally in your bloodline.
Yes.
And I noticed I believe that was, good, one more slide. I was afraid we'd finished.
Yeah, I think we have a couple more. This is a encampment that we put up when we do a reenactment. We usually put up an encampment like this. And this is where they slept when they were out in the plains. The tent is actually 2 halves, and each trooper would have 1 half on his horse. And then when you get to the campsite, you put them together and pitch your tent.
I see. So they each carried half of the tent, and then
That's right. They're called shelter halves.
Wow.
And you can if you only have one, if you're by yourself, you only have 1 half. Of course, you would pitch it where it's like a windbreak. So you'd have the shelter half on the side to block it from the wind.
Mm-hmm. And what else did they and you carry on the horse? I saw the bedroll.
You had bedroll. You had your weapon. Your rifle. You'd also have a saber, and you would have your food packs. And depending on how many days you would be out on patrol, you would have that many food packs, 8 or 10 food packs, and they would be small, where you'd have your coffee, your sugar, your oatmeal, maybe beans, things such as that. But you wanted to keep the weight on the horse to no more than 250 pounds.
Wow.
That includes the rider. So most of the cavalrymen were not that tall in stature. They were anywhere between, say, 5'6" and 5'8", 5'9", because it kept the 5'10" maybe, because it kept the weight down on the horse.
So it was an asset to be lighter frame.
Yes. But again, you would have to hunt some of your food depending on how many days you're out of a rabbit, squirrel, something like that, that you would also cook at night. Also, they had a bread they called hardtack, which was made out of flour, lard, water, and salt. And it was cooked, and it was real hard. If you tried to bite it, you'd break your teeth. But when you break a piece off, you would dip it in your coffee or soup or stew, whatever you had. It would soften it up. Then you could eat it, and it would swell in your stomach and keep you full for an extended period of time.
Wow.
And those are the types of things that we have on our display when we're out at an event.
And when you do the reenactments, do you stay out for a certain number of days and teach the young troopers all of it, like how to set up, how to cook?
Well, that's what we're trying to get into now with the Junior Buffalo Soldier program, set up in encampments. Typically, we'll go out for a one-day event, do an all-day event. We've been trying to do some overnight events, but actually, just as we started getting into the outdoor events is when COVID hit. And we couldn't do that. But I understand that they had a nice encampment at the Junior Buffalo Soldier Summit that National put on in Kentucky over the last, little over a month ago. that the North Carolina chapter came down and set up an encampment for the youth. So we're trying to do that to show them, and we plan to have a Junior Buffalo Soldier Summit next year here in the Sacramento area, where we can take out a bunch of kids and show them just how they lived out on the plains.
How exciting. I noticed there's a link for people who want to join. There was a link on the website.
Yes, there should be a link on our website.
And I think I just Googled Buffalo Soldiers. I think I Googled Northern California Buffalo Soldiers chapter, but would people, can you tell me a website address that so people on the radio can hear?
Yeah, sure. It's www.buffalosoldier.us.
.us.
Yes. Oh, excuse me. Buffalo Soldier, .us.org.
Okay.
Oh, www.buffalosoldier.us.org.
Thank you. I'm sure they'll find it. You have like a really extensive photo gallery. You have lists of past events and upcoming events.
Yes. There's also a national website, which is 910horsecavalry.us. And that is the national website.
And cavalry versus infantry again, excuse my ignorance, but that's why you're here, to educate me.
Yeah.
Does that mean horses?
Cavalry are the horse soldiers. Infantry are the foot soldiers.
That's okay. Now I know for sure.
Yeah. Cavalry, horse soldiers.
Okay.
Infantry, foot soldiers.
And I remember, do you have any particular historical facts about times when, I actually assume, given the history of our country, that African-American or Black soldiers were put in the front lines often?
Well, believe it or not, when I grew up, I was a cowboy buff. I love watching cowboys and Indians and whatnot. But after joining the organization and doing a little historical, the Buffalo Soldiers did the bulk of the fighting versus the Indians. Again, during the Old West, of course, when I was watching it on TV, of course, you didn't see any blacks on TV, so all you saw was a white cavalry. But in reality, 90% of the Indian wars were fought by the Buffalo Soldiers between that period, 1874 and 1890.
1874 and 1890.
Yes, the Indian War period.
Right.
As the United States was migrating west, if you look at the post and most of the plain states, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Texas, the Southwest, Arizona, all of those were patrolled primarily by the Buffalo Soldiers, guarding the wagon trains, guarding the settlers during those time periods. Because you got to realize, after the Civil War, most of the white soldiers wanted to go back to their life before the military. And that's why Congress enacted legislation, because the ranks of the military decreased substantially because of that fact. Therefore, allowing blacks to join the U.S. military, it increased the ranks of the military. So during that time period, most of the battles were fought by the black soldiers, the Buffalo Soldiers, the 9th and 10th, and the 24th, 25th.
And what can you tell us about what options they had in general after the war was over? Since they didn't have lives they would want to go back to.
Many of them stayed in the military, made a career of the military. I've had several had told me older that the military, blacks being able to join the military was the best thing that happened to a black man during that time period, because they had a guaranteed job. They could feed their families. They had medical care, but they were also excellent horsemen. So a lot of the cowboys and the activities of the cowboys, gathering cattle and whatnot, Buffalo Soldiers did a lot of that after they got out. Many of them stayed in, but many of them became cowboys, ranchers, because of their knowledge and expertise on horseback. But they had other typical jobs, because a lot of the jobs they learned being slaves, they were able to carry that over into their civilian life even after the military. Farming, blacksmith, again, caring for horses. So a lot of those things they were able to carry over into their civilian life. And they also had an opportunity to go to school. So some of those that took that route, as far as going to college, getting an education. And most of them, again, they had chaplains, because many of them couldn't read or write when they joined the military. So they had chaplains, and one of the chaplains' job was to teach them how to read and write.
That's so interesting. And may I ask the family member from whom you are descended, what did he choose to do? Did he stay in the military?
My father, yes, he did. He was in the 9th Cavalry Special Weapons Troop, 1940 to 42. He got out. It was kind of interesting when he got in. When he went in, he was bussing tables at Fort Riley, Kansas, in the kitchen. And him and a friend of his, after working, I think he said 10 or 12-hour days for, I don't know, 10 cents an hour or something like that. They said, hey, we can make more than that going into the military. So that's when he joined the military. So he stayed in the 9th Cavalry for 2 years. Then when the Air Force, when they had the Army Air Corps, he transferred over into the Army Air Corps. And then the Army Air Corps became the Air Force. So he enlisted in the Air Force. So he spent 30 years in the Air Force.
Wow.
And again, that was the best thing that happened to the black man during that time. So he stayed in for 30 years. Once he retired, he worked for the post office. He went to work for the post office. And he worked 22 years for the post office.
Wow.
So when he retired from the post office, he had 52 years of federal service. But also what he did after he retired from the Air Force, he went to junior college and took advantage of his GI Bill. So as long as he was eligible for his GI Bill, he got more education.
Wow.
But that's why you see a lot of them were retired military.
That is interesting. And I imagine that it must be so empowering for like your grandchildren and other people who have youth who join. Can you like share a little bit about what do you think that experience means to them and how it helps?
It gives them a sense of pride, and especially when they, you feel that they know something that other people don't know, and they can share those experiences. And when he can talk very intelligently about the legacy and the history of the Buffalo Soldiers. And when we go to these different events, we have teachers that come up to us and a lot of adults that I had no idea about the Buffalo Soldiers, and a lot of them, they know the Buffalo Soldiers through Bob Marley's song, but that's all they know about the Buffalo Soldiers. So as he stands there talking to them about the Buffalo Soldiers and what they did, they're amazed to seeing this at that time, 8-year-old, 9-year-old kid telling them about the Buffalo Soldiers very intelligently. So it gives them a sense of pride,
Yeah, that is very empowering to be able
Yes,
to know your own history. I feel like this makes you stronger and stand up taller,
exactly.
and 8-year-olds educating the rest of us.
And that's why, we tell them, doing a history report or doing a book report about the Buffalo Soldiers, because it's something that they don't hear about, they don't teach, they don't know.
And I did tell a number of people since Trooper Ivy agreed that you could appear on the show. I've told family and friends in the last couple of weeks that, hey, a trooper from Buffalo Soldiers will be on the show, and people were very similar reaction, like, really, wow, I didn't know they
Mhm.
they were still in existence. And what else should people know, like the general public? What should we know about the purpose and the mission and the goal? And
It's basically the important part of history, that they protected the settlers, and a lot of the Western United States would not be here without the Buffalo Soldiers. And in a lot of the towns that they became the first law enforcement, but they couldn't live in the towns. There was still that racism. They could go in and settle a dispute, but afterwards they would have to go back out and sleep in their tents or whatever during those time periods. So it was we were very instrumental in the westward migration of the United States, protecting the borders during World War One. They didn't go overseas. They protected the United States border between the United States and Mexico. They also went to the Philippines during that time period. So it's a very important factors that we're here because of their sacrifices back then.
that's incredible that has been left out of our history books.
Right. The third graduate of West Point, third Black graduate of West Point, was Colonel Charles Young. And there's a tree in his honor at Sequoia National Park. But he led the 9th Cavalry from Yosemite to Sequoia National Park. And they built many of the roads in Yosemite and Sequoia National Park. And again, protected the environment there. So a lot of the beauty and history of those national parks would not be there without the contributions of the Buffalo Soldiers.
I so want to spread this knowledge, and I know you do presentations at schools also. Do you have a curriculum that, say, a U.S. history teacher could buy incorporate into classes?
No, we don't have a curriculum. We are developing some things right now, and not sure if it could be used as a curriculum. But yeah, we go into the schools and we do slideshows, and we do our table display of different artifacts and whatnot. Teach them about the weapons that they used, but we try to go from there, and whatever they need us to do, we'll do it.
Wow. I'll ask you to give some contact information again in a minute. But I'm thinking back on what you shared about law enforcement. It's just such another puzzling part of our history and the psychology of racism, to ask people and use people to settle disputes and give them respect enough for that moment for them to agree to the dispute settlement, and then go back out of
Yes.
town.
And also we asked in regards to how the Native Americans felt, because we were just coming out of slavery, being enslaved, but we were in essence putting some of the Native Americans, not necessarily in slavery, but taking them from their homelands, putting them in reservations somewhere else. But one of the things, again, about the Buffalo Soldiers, like I say, having one of the lowest desertion rates, was they took an oath to do a particular job, and they, as long as they were doing their job, they didn't have any qualms about it, you know. And a lot of them didn't think about their past in terms of being a slave and now enslaving someone else. They were following orders. They had orders to do a certain thing, and they followed those orders.
Wow, I didn't think about that either. God, what a dilemma, what a moral dilemma and conundrum, and to be like forced,
Right?
No doubt, like that. You know, you want to be alive, you want to be here. Then you got to go enslave those other people.
Exactly.
Wow.
And they weren't again. They weren't looking at it as enslaving them, but say if the Indians escaped from the reservations, they were dispatched to gather them up and take them back to the reservations. And they didn't look at it in terms of we've taken this land from them, you know. So
yeah,
it was, again, they were given an order, and a lot of times the Native Americans may have escaped, may have done some looting, killing, and again, they're fighting for their lands and whatnot. So they were looking at it in terms of, I'm following orders, I'm doing a job for the U.S. military.
Yeah, that's what soldiers are trained to do. Wow, this is just phenomenally interesting. Is there a particular, if someone's in the Northern California area, is there a particular phone number they should call if they want to contact the chapter to ask to be put into your schedule for a school?
Sure. I can give my phone number. It's area code 916-690-4230.
Thank you. So people can contact you and ask about.
Contact me, yes, and we will, do whatever we can to accommodate them. If it's giving a presentation, we go to churches, we go to schools, we go to community events. We have a list. We're having a meeting on Saturday, and we have a list of 4 events that are coming up over the next 4 to 6 weeks that we'll be doing. One going to Fallon, Nevada. We've been, like I say, down to Fresno. We'll be down at Peanut Adobe, which is in Vacaville. So we do what we can to provide the general public with the history and legacy of the Buffalo Soldiers.
Wow. And it looks like you do a beautiful job, and I know because I saw it. I saw it in one Juneteenth. It was incredible. I mean, it's just
this week is actually the week of the national anniversary reunion. So I've been on the computer all day because we're doing it virtually again this year. The host was going to be in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, but because of circumstances, we couldn't do it in person, so we're doing it virtually. So this whole week, I've been on yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and then we'll have the wrap up on Saturday.
Fantastic. Well, we are out of time. I think there's a few seconds. If you have like one closing, do you have any kind of closing statement?
No, again, we just thank you for inviting us to come on. Anytime we have an opportunity to share our story, we look forward to it because we're the keepers of this history, and we've got to share it and keep the legacy going. So we thank you very much for your invitation.
Well, I thank you very much for accepting it and for being here and for educating us. And I look forward to more. Thank you for sharing your phone number. And people can find you by searching.
Yes.
And I also would love to thank the listeners and the viewers.
Okay. I was going to say, if he has my email address, he can also put that on there.
Okay.
And I can share my email address. It's sacwb48@gmail.com.
We'll see if that can be managed, and if not, people have. There we go. Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you, sacwb48@gmail.com. So I know we must close the show. Thank you again so much, Trooper Terrell, and Trooper Ivy too, who helped in the background.
Yeah.
I really appreciate our engineer, DJ, and our producer, Dean Piper. And I want to say tune in, everybody, next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time at W4CY and Talk 4 TV. And may we all have enriching conversations in diversity this week.
Again, thank you so much. God bless.
Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech.